Dr. Penny, how are you?
I am blessed.
Good to see you.
It's nice to see you again.
Long time.
Yes.
You know, you are we always say you are a gold in our community here in Birmingham, Alabama.
That's very kind and very humbling because, you know, after listening to my story, which I know you do.
Yes.
I don't take any credit for it.
Right.
I always say that God gave me a second chance in life because
Amen.
He had a reason.
Yes.
After I came to a point where I didn't want to live again.
Right.
Because of the challenges. I had gone through the challenges that are currently going on today,
Yes.
and that is why I want us to talk again.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Definitely, I want to give you this opportunity. First of all, kusalimia watu wetu wa diaspora, and of course, other people who follow us from Kenya.
Yes. It's a blessing to all of you who follow Kiku Diaspora Media, and especially what Jeremy has done over the years. I want to thank you because the support you have given him has made a lot of difference. I know we have a lot of media houses and others, but I think you'll all agree with me that Jeremy has been very consistent, and knowing you as a person has helped me to keep on listening and watching what you're doing, because I know you have no idea the impact you're having in our community. And so I thank God for you and working with you and being a voice for our community, especially in our diaspora community. And also those that listen to you from Kenya, and by the way, not just Kenya.
You are right.
I have friends in UK who always tell me, I have my family in UK who always tell me, tell us when Jeremy has something new.
Right.
And I know they are not the only ones. You have friends. I have friends in Germany also who tell me about, oh, do you live in the same city with Jeremy? And I proudly say that not only do I live in the same city with Jeremy, but I know him, I know his family, and I know they are godly people who are impacting and making a difference in your generation, in my generation, and in the generations to come. So I thank God for KDM.
Amen.
Yeah.
Glory to God. Hiyo ni mzuri sana kusikia. Watu wote wa Germany, then salimikeni na wa UK. Now, you know, as we talk right now, we have something happening here in the US. We have a family that we lost, I think, yesterday or the day before yesterday?
On Saturday.
On Saturday? Kentucky. And that is very sad. Yani mtu anaamuka siku moja tu anaua mtoto, bibi, watoto. And this, we have been hearing these stories from Kenya. Lakini sasa huku, sasa diaspora, I think sasa zimeanza kuingia. So now, you being in this field of, you know, kufunza watu, ku-advise watu, mentorship. Now, what is going on, Daktari?
I don't know where to start with that, Jeremy, because I was thinking to myself this morning as I drove. I came and parked in your place for an hour.
Right.
Because I was trying to reflect and trying to garner some strength, because when we lose a loved one to domestic violence, you know, it speaks to my life.
Yes.
Because I think I told you in my very, very first interview that I had lived through domestic violence for 30 years.
Yes.
I hate it, and that is why we are having so many people dying, because there is shame when you're going through domestic violence. It's not something that you want to tell people that you're going through. And then the shame and the stigma we put to it. We blame the people who are going through this, and as I reflect, now close to 25 years since I stepped out of that abusive marriage. And I'll tell you that living in it for 30 years is because I was determined. And I want to imagine even the sister we lost this Saturday. And her children.
Yes.
And her husband too. If we were able, if there was something that had been recorded, we would end up finding that even the man who committed this heinous crime, we already know that he was going through some depression. He was, I think somebody said that he was under treatment, and then he got to a point where he felt it was not working. He stopped taking medication. So it's always easy to see the side of the man who killed, the one who killed. And sometimes it is women who kill. Because depression, mental illness does not discriminate. It is something that we are really needing to address and talk about.
You are right.
Remove the shame, because when I say I was depressed for 25 years, the first thing you think about me, how did I survive? I cannot tell you how I did, but God. And the God who gave me that second chance, remember I told you I tried suicide twice, because you get to a point where you're helpless. Domestic violence is not just about physical violence. There is emotional. The worst of it is when you're, emotionally depressed.
Right.
When you cannot even think, or sometimes you are trying to fight, but the aggressor is a lot more determined, and so there could be a lot of other things that hold you down. We don't talk about economic oppression.
You're right.
We don't talk about economic abuse, which pins you down as a wife or as a husband, where for me it was every money that we made was controlled by one person. And this happens in families even to date. You might think it is in my generation, at being 75 today plus. You might think it is the older generation, but guess what? Our sister was, I think, only 49.
I know.
So what am I saying? It is something we need to address and really bring to the table, because when we lose a young lady like Mokami and her two daughters, 17 and 11, we are losing our future.
I know.
We can choose to talk about this man who killed. We can talk about why did she not run. I can tell you why she did not run, because it took me 30 years to get to a point of saying, you know what, if I'm going to die in this marriage and leave my children as orphans, it is not worth it. But it is not because you have the support of the people around you, because they are shaming you. What are you running? You're in a wealthy family. Maybe she was. You have good houses. You are driving the best of cars. So to the world, you have this picture. Where they look at you and you are the envy of your city.
I know.
You are the envy of your family. But nobody knows the underlying current. And maybe that is what we did. What happened to our sister? We will never know, because unfortunately, the whole family perished in this.
Yes, very sad. Now, Daktari, you see, when we talk about domestic violence, especially nowadays, what is happening, you say some of this happens because of depressions and a lot of things that maybe we don't know. But, you know, Labda, if you ask the lady who passed on, maybe she'll tell you life was okay, as you have said. And of course, most of us who are watching us today, they don't realize, or they don't know they are actually in that situation. So are there signs to show you that where you are heading to is a danger zone?
There are so many signs, but sometimes we live in denial, because remember, you went down there. I mean, you did a wedding like I did.
Right.
You did not just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to marry this man or this woman. You thought about it, you loved, and you go to that point where you felt that this is the best person in my life, and I want this person for the rest of my life. But then when you get into that marriage, surprises. Some of the things we ignored, and I'll say some of the things I ignored. You're looking at a person, there are some red signs. Either they are abusing you, you can tell they are very harsh on you, or they are not honest, or they are covering up some things. But because I'm here, I've already announced to people I want to get married. Sometimes we live in denial, and it is very hard to say, wait a minute, I am going to withdraw from doing this marriage, from going through with the wedding, because of the shame and the stigma that we as a society has put on these things. It is the high time we allow people, if you smell a rat, walk away. Because it is easy, and I'm saying this out of experience, it is easy to heal a broken heart before a wedding than to heal a broken heart after domestic violence, after everything you go through. And most of all, because a breaking of a marriage after there has been a wedding like mine of 30, or I think this lady, you know, if the oldest is 17, they must have been together maybe for 18, 20 years. But now we are talking about children. And I'll admit that when we are going through these things, we think about me as a wife, my own pain, the things I'm going through. But oftentimes you are so involved in your own pain, you don't think what the children are going through. I looked at the faces of these girls in the media, and I could tell they have been living with their own pain, because their faces could tell it all. A lot of times we deny, and then we do not give permission to people who, when somebody comes and tells you know what, I'm going through some beating, or this man is very harsh on us, or this man is depriving us of this and the other. In our culture, we say, Kangumu, hang in there. things are going to improve. And I lived it, and I waited, and I prayed, and I involved my mother to fast with me for the first 15 years of my marriage. By faith, of course, God promises things are going to get better, but you have to open up your eyes. Are they really getting better, or are they getting worse? A lot of the times we stay there because of the fear.
Yes.
I have 4 children out of that marriage. This lady has 2 children. You want your children to grow in that system.
Yes.
And sometimes at a very high cost, because when there is all these issues, children are getting abused. It's not just the couple.
You're right.
But children suffer in the process. And the parents of this girl, if they are alive, you can only imagine what they are going through after the event. Having to bury not just their daughter, but now to bury their grandchildren, which means that family has come to an end.
Yeah. Very sad.
In a way, so. And I think it is good to reflect now based on the current situation. We've just come out of COVID. COVID, the pandemic has left us in a place we never imagined we would be. It has left impact of sadness, loss of jobs, foreclosures, because when you lose your job, you cannot keep up with your mortgage, or you are living in this kind of an estate where you are paying so much money for your rent. You can no longer afford 20,000 back in Kenya, or 50,000. I'm sure it is much more than that. Or here, you are paying a mortgage of 2,000. You can no longer afford it, or you are paying rent of 1,500. You are squeezing yourself to keep up, and gradually you end up having to relocate. Your personal value gets affected. I had this living standard for me and my family. It's very hard to step down. And that is why so many of us are suffering. And I say this because I also was compelled to retire. You remember when I got very sick, and I suddenly had to retire. Adjust myself from living in my own mortgage house to live with my children. It takes God.
I know.
And I will tell you that it took me 2 years to adjust to that. There are many of us today who are depressed because when they lost a job, they cannot imagine having to step down the standard of living, remove your children from a private school to where they can go. Because when that time comes, it's okay to remove them and put them in a public school for a few years. Because who knows, times change, and you could be able to put them back there. Also, if you have to change your children, I'm using this as one example that I know is very hard for parents. And I did it. We did it before things fell apart for my family. We had to adjust downwards. We are used to adjusting upwards, rising, but coming down, you'll admit it's very hard, especially when it's your family. But then when you can, if there is faith in us that tells me this is not permanent, because nothing lasts forever. But when you're going through very agonizing situations, it's hard to see the future.
You're right.
We are engrossed with what is happening here. I am afraid of what people are going to say about me, and that is killing so many of us, because your social standards, your public image, your reputation is at stake. And many of us cannot imagine, oh my goodness, I'm a Dr. Penny. How do I go and live in Kawangware? How do I go and live from where I'm living now, go back and live in a place that is lower, where it is scary? So the process of adjusting from one level to another downward, the downward is very, very hard on people. And that's why I'm using the epidemic that has affected so many of us. It was inevitable. And right now I'm thinking, you and I, Jeremy, can think of the many people we buried.
I know. 1
month, I think we buried more than 7 people, very prominent people, where you are left thinking, wait a minute, if so-and-so has gone, who is next? I know we asked that. We buried, we contributed some, we sent home some, we buried here. And what was happening here in Alabama was happening in every other state. It happened in our country as well. I know within our family we lost several high-ranking people, ministers, top executives in the country. And that is easy. It's easy to talk about it, but when you really think about the aftermath, the impact of all that, that is why we are now where we are, because we are having a hard time to say it did happen. And instead of me thinking, I am alive, I don't have all those titles I had when I was working, when I was a lead psychologist at the hospital. I don't have all those titles, but I am alive. I'm able to drive myself from point A to B. Yes. If I'm driving a smaller car, I am still driving. We have food on the table. But the human nature is such that I want to brag about the car I drive, the estate I live in, the job I hold, the titles we have. And so when all this is taken away by life, and they will be taken away by the way, it is the high time we all agreed and started psyching ourselves. Times will happen. Times will come when bad things happen. Yes. Life happens to everybody, and unfortunately, something like COVID did not discriminate. Anybody could have gotten caught up with it. Yes. But how we respond to these things is what determines are we going to get to be, we are going to be distressed. We are going to be anxious. Yes. There is anger. Why me? And when you're asking why me, why am I going through this? Why is my family going through this? We are forgetting that our family is alive and suffering. Yes. We may have sickness like I do in our family at the moment, but we are alive. Yes. And in Kikuyu we say that if you are alive, there is hope. Yes. The Bible tells us the same thing. If we can lean on God during those tough times, we have a better chance of seeing a better tomorrow. Amen.
I think I like what you're saying. Now, before we continue, let's come back to this. You know, not once, not twice, we have had young kids taking their lives, especially in America. Young generation, 16, 17, 18. So what is happening to them? Because that's a question that has been going through my mind all the time. Mtoto ambaye akona 17, 16, 21 years. Maybe probably some of these kids are still under their parents' care. Yeah. So what is happening?
I wish I had an answer. Because as a mother, as a grandmother, as one who attempted suicide, you bet I have a lot of questions and I have lots of regrets. Let me confess here that when somebody attempts suicide, including my own niece, who took her life by a gun. Oh no. So when you talk about suicide, it is very, very personal to me. And then I'm left asking, I'm left dealing with survival guilt. And wondering, God, why you had your own reason, because I was ready and I wanted to do that. If I speak from that angle, this person who attempts suicide and goes over with it, allow me to say from experience that sometimes they did not mean to go. But depending on what they tried, a gun snaps, a gun kills. Yes. The other one takes medication and really does what he did. The sad thing is that it's a coping mechanism in each one of us. By the time as a person I got to that point of saying I don't need this, my experience with domestic violence was up there. I was ashamed. I had a lot of regrets. I was not talking. And I think that is one of the worst things in suicide. The shame that we carry, and most of us end up saying that. And I know especially the two young men who died recently in Atlanta. Yes. Both of them were saying, the parents say that he kept on saying, I don't want to be a burden to anybody. And I want to say this to those of you who are listening. A lot of the people who have attempted suicide have felt like a burden to their parents. I felt like a burden to, why am I there? If I cannot cope with my own issues and my children have to suffer from that, then I am a burden. I knew my parents were suffering from that. I hated to see my mother especially know what I was going through, live through that. Yes. So I felt like a burden. A lot of times it is, people feel like they are a burden. And then the fact that I'm not talking to anybody, the fact that these young men are hiding, and both the ones that are very, very fresh in my mind, both we were told that they were not talking. They would keep to themselves. And remember what the Bible tells us, that the devil will isolate you so that he can beat on you. Woe unto us if people around us are also, we are also talking negative things about those who have committed suicide, or sometimes the child is failing. And I'm not blaming any parent, hear me out. I don't want this to be translated against any parent, because no parent raised a child to commit suicide.
Yes.
Every parent will have done their very best. But life happens. They do it in secrecy. A lot of the times, what causes them to kill themselves is not even in the house. We talk about school bullies. This is a young man. In our culture, we always raise our sons and tell them, boys, don't cry. It is the high time we give our sons permission to come and cry at home.
Right.
But when we tell our children, boys, don't cry, what is going to happen? They are flesh and blood. They have emotions. They will be hurt. Our boys are getting sodomized. Our boys are being bullied, and the same thing with our girls. They are being raped, they are being bullied, all kinds of things are happening. And children can be very, very cruel to one another. And before you know it, they come to that point of believing, I am not good for nothing. And this is now where I address the parents. As a parent myself, you would think I'm out of it because my children are all grown up.
Right.
Guess what? I'm in the throes of helping to raise my grandchildren. And so they come home and tell me that grandma so-and-so told me this, or I remember one day picking up my granddaughter, and she came into the car. She dumped her bag in the car and kept quiet. And this is a girl who get into my car and talk to me, Shosho, how have you been? How was your day? But she comes into the car and suddenly goes quiet on me. And I start driving, and I'm thinking, something is not right. And so when I asked her, because if we need to give each other permission. If I'm quiet on you, ask me something. I have given my children permission. If I am not talking, don't assume all is well. It could be that I also don't want to bother you. But perhaps you can break the silence and help me from going down the cliff. Our children are coming home. We are too busy. You have young children, and I know you understand this. You have your job, you are traveling, you have a lot of other things. You are worried about their future. So chances of these children coming home and you're crisscrossing, you're leaving for work, and they are coming into the house, or they come into the house, you're working in the house. So chances of them coming in and yearning for somebody to hug them, to ask them, how was your day? Chances of us not doing that are very high. And so 1 day, 2 days, and guess what? There's a build-up of feeling rejected. They feel rejected at school. They come home, not intentionally. We are quiet because we're also going through stuff. Now, this is where I raise the issue. Do we have family meetings? Do we have family forums? Are we having our dinners together as much as is possible? And I know somebody is going to tell me, oh, I work during the daytime, and my wife or my husband works during the night, so we are never together. But there has to be an intentional free day for everybody. And this will only happen if we know that we need to talk. We need to listen to one another. I need to look at your emotions and tell when you're hurting. And this can only happen if we are being intentional in how we relate. I think even you and I as professionals, I can see you when you're doing your interviews, and I can see you when we meet in weddings and the like, and sometimes I can tell when you're tired. If you as a friend or a colleague, I can tell those differences. What about your family? I think we need to really be intentional in this and put a lot more effort. How are we relating? Do we talk? Do we allow our children to share their issues? Or are we where, like in my generation, we were told, Mommy would tell me at times, I have too much on my mind. I don't have time for petty things like that. Be careful. What you think is petty could be a deciding factor on this, especially from the age of 13, 14, when they enter into their adolescent years, they have self-esteem issues. They easily feel rejected. So if they feel bullied at school, they go through rejection at school, and then they come home and we dish out the same thing unaware. It is not intentional. And true enough, especially when you think of the diaspora community, my heart goes out for anybody who is raising a child in foreign countries. Right. The demands on us are very high. Yes, I may be the grandmother in the home, and I look at my children, and I feel for them when I roll down the camera on myself and think what it was like when I was raising them. Now here they are in a rat race, and this goes for many of us. So I think this is where we need to tell each other that let's go back to the drawing board. Where can we reconnect? Where do we talk with our children? Another issue is there is grief in the family.
Right.
Do we involve our children? We put them in the bedrooms. The adults are discussing. They need to get involved in family issues, whether they are financial problems. Let them know that we are struggling. So that when they come and ask you for a bicycle and you say, I can't afford it, and yes, they are wanting a bicycle because her friend or his friend has a new bicycle. And this is Christmas season. We are talking about handling the festival season. I mean, handling the holidays.
Yes.
We are at a season where our children are going to act out. Our responses are going to make all the differences. And while we are thinking that it is just this season, we are making legacies. Time does not wait for anybody.
Right.
The impact of how we relate with them as parents, as grandparents, aunties and uncles, the priorities we have will make all the difference. And now this becomes a generational thing. So I cannot stand and say that my children are grown up and Jeremy or my son Jeff is busy raising their children. I have to get involved in the little way that I can. If it is praying for you, if it is listening to you when you're struggling, may that be my contribution. And so this is going back to where we say as a culture, it takes a village to raise a child. The teenagers that are committing suicide, remember that when you were growing up or when I was growing up, there are things I could not tell my mother, and it is common. There are things even today you cannot tell your mother or your father at that particular age, but it is easier to talk to an auntie or an uncle.
Right.
In the diaspora, our children's uncles and aunties are back in Kenya or wherever we have come from, whether they are from Nigeria, they're in Nigeria. This is where I call upon us as a society. Whose auntie are you? Not necessarily your bloodline.
Right.
Whose grandmother am I? Remember when you came into this community, you found Shosho Penny. Not by choice, but when some children started calling Shosho Penny way before I had my own grandchildren, it dawned on me something my mother had told me, that you've been ministering in our community back in Kenya. Wherever God sends you, there will be people who are needing ministry.
Right.
There are going to be people, you've been a mentor, there are going to be people who are needing mentoring. And so this again becomes a societal need.
Yes.
What part am I playing? What part are you playing?
Yes.
You are Uncle Jeremy to so many people even without knowing it.
Right.
Because young people are looking at you. Now this sends us to where there is a song we sang in high school. They are watching you. They are marking everything you say. Let them hear as you talk about the faithfulness of God, as you share with them where God has brought you, so that you give them something to hang on to. I want to hang on to the God of Jeremy. I want to hang on to the God of Dr. Penny. I am not just who I am today because I did anything better than anybody else, but God. And the good thing is that the God who brought you, and I know your story, you know my story, the God who brought us from those trenches is still in the business of saving our people and bringing them out of trenches.
Amen. So we are going to take a short break, then we're going to come back, and I want you to tell me, because when we talk about the diaspora community, and let me be specific, Kenyan community, are the people back home expecting a lot from us?
How do you feel today?
Oh, I feel good. We feel blessed as a family. Our sister has done really good It's amazing. I know it has not been easy for her. She has really, really worked hard. And we want to tell her that we are proud of her. And may she continue to soar higher and higher. And she's blessed. God has really blessed her. And we are part of it as a family. And we are grateful to God.
So what do you tell someone who never bought a house?
That it's one step at a time, and when you trust and when you work hard and you put all your trust in God, everything is possible.
Thank you, thank you. And maybe the viewers out there?
Viewers outside there, that I would love to tell you that it is real. We are not acting. Wilston Home are real. They are genuine. They have delivered my sister's home, and I've witnessed. And I'm a witness to this good news.
Asante sana.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And
Welcome.
Thank you for being trusted.
Hey, karibu sana doctor. Now, nimekuuliza maswali. I've just asked you 2 questions. Maybe utatueleza. Tutaanza gani?
Yeah, the pressure from our families back home is very real and very destructive. I don't mean any harm, but I think it is high time we spoke about these things. And I'm glad you are raising it up, because you'll be surprised how many people will say, good Jeremy.
Yes.
And you are not alone. Yes, when we come into this country, and at times I feel for my people back home, I want to understand them, I want to excuse them, because perhaps you and I also behaved in the same manner. Perhaps you and I, and a lot of us in the diaspora community, our Kenyan communities, we might have been thinking in the same, we might have had the same mindset that when you come into America, you get a job immediately, you are making good money. And sometimes we ourselves make that impression on people. We give wrong impression to people, and by thinking that I'm impressing them. You rent a car by necessity because you're traveling from Birmingham to Atlanta. My car is not in good condition, so by circumstance, by necessity, I'll rent a car. Guess what you do? You stand beside that Pajero or whatever you are driving. Then you make a mistake of sending it back to people and telling them, this is what I drive. And you know the truth that you are driving a jalopy like me. So who do we blame for that? You stand outside somebody's house, you take a photo, you send it back home. How are you going to clarify this? Because you are the one who said, this is where I live, this is what I drive. And you know we are here, we are cleaning homes. Yes, I may be a Dr. Penny, but after how many years? I didn't know, I joined college here. I brought my children and they started what they were doing, and then my work demanded dedication. When I came here, I had no college degree. All I had was my Alliance High School degree, diploma. And I was forced by circumstances to go to school. If I had had a choice, I don't think I would have gone that route. And it took God's grace and my children encouraging me, Mommy, you have to finish what you started. But so we give that impression to people that we are making a lot of money. I said we clean homes, we clean patients, we work in gas stations, we are making minimum salaries. I remember when I came into this country, I was making, I will never forget how we survived, I don't know, $5.75. Not very long ago, because it is in 2000. We had to rent a house, the place for all of us. We were eating. We were sharing one car that was breaking down on us every other day. But we had to make it because that is what was available for then. But then back home, people who knew Penny is here, her children are here. Of course, how many salaries are those?
Oh yeah, you are doing very well.
We are doing very well. So why will you not be able to send money back home? And that went on, and guess what? It distressed me. It really depressed me, because a lot of the challenges I was having, I am the oldest in a family. So I was the primary caregiver for my parents. Yes, I would do it through my sisters and my brothers. But they expected me to be the one doing better, without knowing that here, while we are here, some of my children are not working. One of them is in college, and I'm having to deal with that. I'm having health issues. I am depressed because then that's when I was dealing with my own transit from a marriage that had failed, and I was having to heal. I'm also in training. How much money can I make? And I'm using myself as an example because I like using myself so that you don't ask me, how do I know? I know because that is what I went through. So I'm not able to send as much money, and you're not able to. Here you are, you have come in as with a young wife. I can imagine because I know I saw you, we started relating immediately. You came, you have a young wife, then you have a child. And you're struggling, you're hustling. Talk about hustling. When we talk about hustling, I think people in the diaspora are the ones who hustle.
They know the real meaning.
The real meaning, if you want the real meaning of hustling, ask the people who are living in the diaspora. And we are not faking it.
You're right.
The mistake we do is faking living well. Giving the wrong impression and giving it to somebody. I say that sometimes I forgive them because they have not been here. I remember when my mother came to see us and she lived with us, and she went home and told my siblings, if you ever drink $1 from Wajiro, it will give you stomachache because you have no idea how she's making that money. And there are so many of us, they came with green cards, and so you would think it is easier for them. You came on a green card, but you still had to hustle. So we see diaspora, we see the KDM today, and we think that is who Jeremy is. But nobody knows where Sally and Jeremy and their children have been through to be where they are today. The same thing with me, the same thing with many of our sisters. And many of us, many of the people in the diaspora community are making a lot of sacrifices, even to feed families. We are compassionate. I would say that if you want to know people who are compassionate, it is the diaspora community because they are helping build for their parents. But here we are living in very, very downgraded places to be able to divide this money. We are feeding people back home. We are the ones who are educating the children from our siblings and our friends. Sometimes your mother will know that Auntie so-and-so is needing this. You are the one who will end up doing that. So-and-so needs this. It is diaspora, it is Jeremy, it is Penny, it is our friends. And when you continue dealing with this, gradually there is a development of depression in you. You are feeling inadequate. Because when you're busy sending that money, your children here are suffering. I remember at one time my children asking me, but mommy, must we always live hand to mouth when you're helping people out there? And I try to convince them, we have to help people when we can. But, that night I remember crying my head out because here is true. Unajenga kwa wenyewe na kwako kuna poromoka. We are building people out there. The government says that we transmit a lot of money than they are making in the country. At what cost? And when we get depressed, when domestic violence takes place here because husbands and wives are pulling, why are we sending money back home and our children are suffering? We can barely gift our children. Guess what? There is a trickle effect. The depression you feel, the sadness you feel, the deprivation you feel trickles down to you and gradually to my grandchildren. What good is that to anybody? This is why I'm saying we need to go back to the drawing board. What does the Bible tell us? Love your neighbor as yourself. So God gave us permission to take care of us first, because unless you do self-care, and for me as a mental health professional, this is what I emphasize. How are you taking care of yourself, Jeremy? How are you taking care of Sally and the two little girls? We see them nicely dressed. But are you doing it when you force yourself to go and buy clothes for these children? Is somebody negating that and telling you that we can see you dressing very well, we can see the car you drive, but we are going hungry? Guess what? And then you go home, the very people who have told you that they are going hungry, they have rental homes. Have we allowed ourselves to be, I'm sorry, I will say this, but have we allowed ourselves in ways to be taken advantage of? Did we consider, have we talked between ourselves as families, this is what we need to do to take care of our family here?
Yes.
And then help others after you help your children. But many of us are guilty, as I am, helping a lot of other people. And even kwetu kuna poromoka.
Yeah.
It happens even here locally. There is a funeral, there is a bridal shower, there is a baby shower. But because I want my name to be listed everywhere, what do we do? This contribution is going on. Are you one of the people who contribute to make sure that your name is appearing everywhere? While your child is missing milk, while you cannot buy eggs for your children. I remember my mother telling me that make sure that your children have an egg every day if they need it. Because you cannot deprive your child of an egg today, Jeremy, and think that in a week's time you give them 2 eggs. The health issues are going wrong while you're busy making those contributions. Must you?
Good question.
Is it not a time where we agree that I cannot please everybody?
Yes.
And because we are also good, for us, even the diaspora community, we are good at sending each other on a guilty spree. Why do you make me feel less than good just because I am not contributing? And I'm not saying I will not contribute. You know me, Jeremy, I have done that.
Yes.
And I know you have done that.
Yes.
But are we giving each other permission to say that I did it for all those years?
Yes.
But now I'm retired, I don't make as good, and I have medical bills, and my mother has medical bills. My child is struggling. Sometimes our children are going through medical issues, but we are having to do for others what we should be doing for our children.
Right.
And then the trickle effect is that they start feeling that they are not a priority in your life. They are not a priority in my life. And eventually, what do? They find their way out. You are left, you know, the same people you have been working with and the same people you have been helping will be there, the ones to blame you. Or she was busy making a name out there while her children were suffering. Or her marriage is falling apart because he or she was busy making a name out there.
Yes.
That is why I'm saying we need to go back to the drawing board. Remove the shame. Allow me to be me. Allow me to do only what I can do. Don't label me. Because the reality of life, and especially after the pandemic, many of us have lost our resources. Allow me to be where I am. Yes. Allow me to be comfortable with me. And by the way, if people don't allow you to be comfortable with yourself, give yourself permission. Be true to yourself. Do only what you can do.
Yes.
Stop earning titles from people. Because the titles you are forcing people to give you, they will take them away.
You're right.
At a very high cost, because by the time you realize that, wait a minute, I exposed myself to ridicule, I exposed myself to being labeled, it will be too late. Your family has already suffered. What is your priority? The hierarchy of needs. Your family needs you. Make friends, but start with your family.
What jameni? I think I love that, Daktari. That's very powerful. And I believe everybody is agreeing with me now. Let's talk about we as parents now. Because there is a friend of mine. She has grown-up kids. They are already grown up, but they work for themselves. They have jobs. But she is taking care of them like they are still kids. She's not letting them go. So my question is this. We now as parents, Kenyan community especially, are we again on another side holding our kids so much? Yani, unakuta mzazi sasa unafikiria, as you had said up earlier, that we are thinking of what our kids will have tomorrow more than we are supposed to. Unajua kitabu tulikuwa tunaambiwa mzazi mzuri ni yule anaachia watoto nini? Urithi. So here in America, are we supposed to think about that? Or are we supposed to let our kids go? Will that ease our burden?
You caught me red-handed because I'm a mother, and I'll admit to you that it is hard to get to that point where you empower your children and allow them to fly away.
Right.
Don't just throw them, but prayerfully allow them and empower them to live their lives. But it is very tempting. The problem is many of us have had our identity in being Mama Njoroge,
Yes.
Mama Jeff, Baba Precious,
Yes.
and that feels good until we lose the timeline. Where do I need to empower them and let them fly out on their own? We hold them, we hold, not just holding them, but we are holding them. In a way that you are over-controlling them. It becomes harmful. And I'll admit this to you, Jeremy, that it is some of the things I do differently is not because I am better than other parents or any other person, but my profession and learning, because I'm constantly upgrading myself. That is what allows me to think about me as a parent, looking from the outside inside. What am I offering to other people? It's very easy for me, even as a parent, to keep on enabling that. What you are saying is that we enable our children.
Yes.
We do so much for them until they can no longer think. If you start thinking for your child, when they want to invest, you're investing for them. When they want this, when are they ever going? And by the way, some of the investment we are doing, let's use an example when we are buying plots and land and everything back in Kenya, and you know, maguta, it is all very well, but we need to start thinking.
Yes.
Your children are born here. They just go home to visit. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with owning property back home, but have you asked them, especially, you'll be surprised your little girl can already tell you, Daddy, this is what I like.
Yes.
And maybe I would like for us to buy a house, not where we are, but in a different location.
Yes.
If they start talking that language, be open-minded, listen to them, involve them. That is why I said we need to have family conversations, family forums. Involve your children so that you're not just investing things where they are going to ask you, who are you buying for? I'm not going to live in Kenya. I'm not going to live in Nigeria. So why not work together as a family? If they want to invest, teach them to invest where they want to invest, because the reality is they may not want to go where you're investing. You will have wasted yourself. And let's also be real with ourselves, those of us who are living in foreign countries. Have you been honest with yourself? Do you want to go back? And I'm not saying our country is bad. It is a good place, and I'll go visit, and I'll visit, and I'll visit, and I love my people. But I also have to be realistic. We are living in this world of dreams. Good. Let's go back and see that. Let's be realistic.
Yes.
Is your situation good enough for you to invest here and invest back there? Don't do it because everybody is doing. Because that is another. You talked about competition.
Yes.
The competition is with us right where we are. You see somebody has bought a 5-bedroomed house and they have only 2 children.
I know.
Just for the sake of saying that I own a 5-6-bedroom house.
Niuze uoga. Niuze fear. I sell fear.
Exactly.
Oh my.
And then, but then when you're doing that, you are the only one who knows the sleepless nights you are having making that mortgage. Why are you impressing people? Why are you allowing people to put competition images in you when you don't need it?
Yes.
A lot of times, let us admit that even the things that are bringing depression in our families, we are doing things we want, not what we need. Sure. It is a high time we drew the line. What do we really need?
Yes.
What do we really want? Because until we do that for our family, the nuclear family, you are going to allow external influences, and it is putting weight on you. It is sending you in, bringing depression to you as I compete. My salary is not your salary. My resources are not like your resources. My contacts, where I can borrow money and where I can do this. And the other thing is, your family of origin, were they able, or are you scratching?
Yes. And
scratching to get where you are now because you are here? Because I'm a Dr. Penny, I want to look like every other doctor. And some of the doctors around me have inherited a lot of wealth. I inherited nothing. I scratched from scratch, and I'm still scratching. And instead of empowering my children that, yes, I'm scratching and you're scratching, but aim higher. But don't push it into them that, I don't know about you, but how many times have you been asked by people from back home, or So and so's brothers have bought land, they have bought homes. What are you doing with your money?
Which America are you in? That's the question they ask. Kwani uko America gani?
Exactly, yeah, because of this idea of money falling from the trees, and I've never come across that tree. So it is, back to the drawing board is, what do you want for yourself? What do you want for your family? Why are we allowing external influence? It's external pressure, like you called it, that is causing us to get depressed, to start fighting within ourselves, because one, for example, in a couple, either the one spouse is wanting us to invest out there because that is what everybody is doing. One person here is wanting us to focus on the children because that is what is the right thing. Let's do what is good for us. Reduce the tension. Talk about these things. But one of us is talking to the outside world, the other one is talking inside, and so there is a disconnect. One of the things I want to emphasize here is we have broken communication, and that is what is killing many of us. I'm sick, I'm not telling anybody because I want to look like I am mean. I am making it even when I can barely walk. The cane that I'm using there, it has taken a lot of telling myself I have to face the reality. I'm having health issues that are causing me to walk with a cane. But the pride in me, Jeremy, you know, I don't. I want to look like I'm. I am mean, and that is just one example. In which other areas of our lives are we projecting an image that is not true? You can cheat the world, but you can't cheat yourself. Never. You can cheat yourself, but you cannot teach God. And instead of telling God, this is what I am, I'm willing to become this, I need your help. Walk at your pace. But many of us are running a pace that I cannot even, it's not sustainable. I don't have the resources, you don't have the resources, but you want to be with the in crowd. You want to drive all the cars that everybody is driving, and you can't afford it. So you're doing it at the cost of your family. And then the squabbles begin. Talk about homicides. I'm not saying I know what is happening to these families, but I can almost, when you use a general consensus, we are not agreeing with, we don't have an agreement that this is what we are doing as a family. And the families that have done that, we look down at them and we think they are too slow in progress. But give them 5 years. Jeremy, give yourself 5 years when you and your wife can work together and involve your children. When you cannot buy a bicycle, don't just tell them you don't need it, but tell them, I know I would love to buy you that bicycle. But this year, because Christmas is coming after so many other things, maybe we've been dealing with social illness, we've been dealing with aunties, problem here and there. We are going to have to hold down, but we need to communicate. We need to allow to tell our children why we are not doing some of the things so that they grow with us, they progress with us, so that when you get to that time of telling them, I will buy you a bicycle, it will not be just a bicycle. You talked about empowering our children. A thing we are seeing is because your child is 20, I mean 16 or 18, you buy them a brand new sports car because that is what your friend did. When did you empower your child to do chores around your neighborhood, to be able to chip in to buy that car? Why don't you give your child the pride of saying, I bought my first car? They are sitting there, they are babysitting, they are cleaning cars, they are doing yards. Did you not do lawn care yourself? I saw my son complete his IT engineering degree and go back and tell me, Mommy, I want to be a lawn care manager. Why is it so hard for us to do that with our children? There is this what we are saying, I don't want my children to suffer the way I did. If it did not kill me, it is not going to kill my children. If it did not kill you, it's not going to kill your children. What did it do to you? It gave you thoughts about yourself. It gave you self-worth. I can do it. But when you say that we are giving them everything they need, you're telling them you can't do nothing until mommy does it for you. And then we are blaming them in the end. We have created a generation that is entitled. to everything.
Right.
And when you, because you give them that picture, when you don't fulfill that, there is a disconnect between us and our children and our grandchildren and everybody around you.
Right.
And then we end up blaming the couple. You set standards that you cannot keep up with them, depression comes in, fights are in, disappointment, we are angry at each other, and the next thing, we are very uptight.
Right.
Temper tantrums, not just with children, but with us. And then when a child starts throwing those temper tantrums because you're throwing them, we call them temper tantrums. The child is depressed just as you are from the age of 3.
You're right.
So it's an ongoing cycle that we need to break, and we need to talk about these things. This is a good time. Yes. Children are waiting for gifts. Husbands and wives are waiting for gifts. Are you in that mode? Did you lose something that makes it hard for you to buy these gifts? Have you told them? Have you been in communication? Have you discussed the situation with your family to the extent that they know we have all agreed this time we are going to buy bread and give it to a family that cannot buy food? Our church is encouraging us to give rather than receive, and the Bible says there is grace in receiving just as much as there is in giving. If you may not be able to do much for somebody, but can you run an errand for somebody and can you teach your children to do something that will make somebody else feel better than instead of telling them, if Auntie so-and-so does not give you a gift, she doesn't love you. Do you know whether that auntie or that uncle can do it? Do you know whether Guka and Shushu can do the grandparents can give those gifts as they have always done? Times have changed, but we are still living up in the sky. We need to come down to reality and face the reality that things are not where they used to be.
I know that time ya kumaliza it's coming, but now the last question. Now, where are we going to land to? Because I've seen many people, even right now, who are watching us, probably wanajiuliza, yes, I know I'm in that situation that you're talking about, but I don't know anyone to discuss these things with. I don't know who to talk to. Sijui nitaongea na nani anisaidie nitoke kwa hii kitu, because wale nimeongea na wao already they have labeled me as you have said. Niliongea na mtu mmoja akatoa siri zangu nje, so people doesn't have that confidence ya kushare their own issues and affairs. But tukirudi utatuambia watu watapotelea wapi. Naitwa Jeremy Namares. Just a short break, then we're going to be back.
How do you feel today?
Oh, I feel good. We feel blessed as a family. Our sister has done really good. It's amazing. I know it has not been easy for her. She has really, really worked hard. And we want to tell her that we are proud of her. And may she continue to soar higher and higher. And she's blessed. God has really blessed her. And we are part of it as a family. And we are grateful to God.
So what do you tell someone who never bought a house?
That it's one step at a time, and when you trust and when you work hard and you put all your trust in God, everything is possible.
Thank you. Thank you. And maybe the viewers out there?
Viewers outside there, that I would love to tell you that it is real. We are not acting. Wilston Home are real. They are genuine. They have delivered my sister's home, and I've witnessed. And I'm a witness to this good news.
Asante sana.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And
welcome.
Thank you for being trusted.
All right, welcome back. Now, daktari nimekuuliza hiyo swali. Watu watapotelea wapi sasa? Where are people going to run to now?
It's good to ask that question because I've been asking myself. I happen to be not only am I a professional in this field, but I'm also a human being, and I have to deal with my own issues, with my family issues as well. The unfortunate thing, and I know people, I happen to be a minister as well. Not only am I a therapist, but I also happen to be a minister of the gospel.
Right.
We have put God outside. We are very rarely, we are less and less dependent on God. And when you tell somebody that, let's tell God this. And I do not spiritualize things. I talk things as they are. And I know there is time to pray, there is no time to act. But I also need, what has brought me this far and what we should lean on is knowing that there is a God. I want us to look back. I don't know about you, but I can look back and say that at a certain season in my life, there was tragedy. My parents died, I couldn't go back and bury them because at that time I wasn't able to. The depression I felt at that time, only God would deliver me from that. He did it then. If I'm going through depression today, can I trust that God? I've been at a point where I couldn't feed my family, but I remember taking a covenant with God and praying, God, don't ever let me tell my children to go to bed without food. Yeah, there came time when we would eat ugali with tea, black tea. They didn't go to sleep without food. There was something.
Yes.
We've gotten to a point where I need to pay school fees, and I don't have a dime. And I've been given a time factor, but God came through. I've been sick to a point of death. You are there.
Yes.
God delivered me out of that at a time when my children are told, you tell her what you want, deal with her, she's not coming home. And I remember telling God, God, not now, please have your mercy upon us. He had mercy on us. I don't want to forget that God has done miracles in the past. Do you believe in a miracle? I don't know. The person who is listening, it depends on where do you run. I can run to Jeremy, I can run to my friends. I used to run to my parents when they were there. But time came when they departed like every other human being. I am there for my children today, but have I taught them to run to God before they run to me?
Right.
I'm a backup, but there is a giver. There is God who provides. Is it in the loss of your business, is the loss of your family, death in the family, grief. There are things even as a death and grief therapist, and by the way you're going to tell them about this book.
Yes.
I cannot do everything.
Right.
I am a fellow human being like you, but I'm encouraging us to have a higher power somewhere. Don't always run to people because one, we are not able to deal with everything. Even as counselors and therapists, I don't have all the knowledge. I upgrade myself on a daily basis. I read constantly. I want to have the most relevant information, but I am also a human being, so I am not able to help everything that I need to help. So that's why I'm asking us, where do you run? Where is your higher power? In the night time, when you cannot talk to anybody, where do you run? There is that. Then I also want to say, can we be trusted friends? You say that I tell you, pray for me, and the next thing I hear, it is on KDM.
Yes.
It is on Facebook, it's on WhatsApp. I always tell people, if I wanted my prayers to be highlighted everywhere, I'm on all those social medias. Don't put it there for a person, because somebody will tell you that I'm feeling broken, I am feeling depressed, I am suicidal. By the way, when somebody admits they are suicidal, don't hide that, because you will live with that guilt if they carried it out. Tell somebody. If you are feeling suicidal, tell somebody. I have admitted publicly that I was suicidal and I attempted it, and by that I avail myself. If you feel suicidal, if you feel desperate, trust me. I can keep confidence. And that is what I do with my private counseling, a private counseling body, Angel Counseling Services, which is both virtual. Yes. I have an office. Call somebody. And then we are also surrounded by a lot of other therapists around us. Please don't die alone. The fact that you told somebody and they let you down does not mean that we don't have a lot of other people. And I'm challenging the rest of us. If you would feel hurt when you tell me something and I told it out, don't do it to somebody. Do unto others as you would them. If you want me to keep your confidence, keep confidence. Don't tell stories. Empower others, stand for others, because today it is Jeremy, today is Penny, but tomorrow it is you, and it could be your children. My children are doing drugs and you go tell other people. Forgetting that these children, Jeremy's children or Penny's children who are doing drugs, they are friends with your children.
Yes.
Help me change the situation in my home so that it does not trickle down into you. The moment we realize that what happens in Penny's life could easily come into your life tomorrow, you help me sort my problems.
Yes.
Instead of broadcasting it out there, help me. Jeremiah 29:11. God says, I know the plans I have for you, not just for Penny, not just for Jeremy, but for all of us, because God created you for a reason. Isaiah 43:18 and 19. Forget the past. Let go of the things that have been done to you, the anger you feel, the bitterness. Forgive and move on.
Yes.
That is something that is holding so many of us in ransom. Yes, you've been hurt, and I admit that. You've been wounded. What good is it to you when you continue brooding that and making it bigger? Walk away. Look beyond what is hurting you today. Is it a death in the family? It has happened to you, to me, to other people. What can we do? We need to get to a point where we can say, God, help me to move on so that I can get into my healing. Be there for other people. Don't just talk about the negative things about other people. Right. Because what you're planting, you're going to harvest it tomorrow. Right. Today you laugh about Penny. Today you ridicule Jeremy. And what you're planting, what goes round will come round. Be careful what you're doing to other people because you are going to harvest it. We need to be serious, and I'll say it again. Think where you run. There is a God who cares. There is a God who has brought you out of tragedy. There is a God of miracles. He did it for me. He can do it again for somebody else.
Wow, awesome. Now, tukimaliza, I know this book. Nimeisoma.
And another one is half done.
Oh, really?
On mental illness.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, Healing Hope for Your Grief and Bereavement. Na hii kitabu ni mzuri sana by the way. Ninakumbuka the first time nilikukuta huko, kulikuwa kunaitwaje? Kule chini.
At my office.
Yes, at your office. Nilienda nikasoma hii kitabu na nikaona ni mzuri sana. Sasa watu wa diaspora, hii kitabu hebu tuelezee.
This book, it's Healing Hope for Your Grief and Bereavement. It's not just about losing somebody to death. Those who are going through divorce and separation, that is there. You are going through loss of business. You started a business, it bloomed, and then suddenly something happened. We talk about losses. We talk about depression. We talk about failure. And so many of us are afraid of failure. The book is available on Amazon. It's also an e-book. You can read it on your phone.
Right.
And I'm not I'm not praising the book because it is my book, but it is what you've just said it yourself. You've read it. The contents are worth what you're going through. And again, I'll say it's not just for those who have lost somebody to death. There are so many losses in life that we are so ashamed of. We don't talk about them. Problematic parenting.
Yes.
You talk about it and somebody will laugh at you. I talked about it a few minutes ago. Those are losses we don't talk about because we have put shame on everything. We have put stigma on everything. When people talk about mental illness, we look at them differently. Yes. Remember back in Kenya, what we do with them, we put them in an institution. There are so many, rehabs here.
Yes.
Alcoholism, drug addiction, all those things I discuss here. And I'm now working on another one specifically about my own depression. And what I do today as what led me to become a full-time mental health professional. And people ask me, how do you cope with it? It's because I want to give that which I was missing when I was going through my own depression.
Yes.
And part of it is here. So I would encourage you to get a copy and get a copy for your friend as well.
Hey, tafadhali, just enda kwa Amazon. Ukienda kwa Amazon nataka tu Dr. Penny Wanjiru Njoroge. Atapata kitabu. Ama uweke tu
Amazon, the title of the
Healing Hope for Your Grief and Bereavement. All of course, lazima labda uko na contacts zenye mtu.
I do, yeah.
I know kuna watu wanatutazama wakiwa Germany. I receive a lot of calls, people who are going through hard time.
Yeah.
Vita kati ya watoto na wazazi.
Yeah.
Vita kati ya brothers. There are people even who are watching us today. Hata waongeleshani na ni family. Brothers and sisters, and they're in the same country. I think.
Can I say something before I forget,
yes.
which I think is very pertinent? You've just talked about fights between families.
Yes.
There is this sibling rivalry that we as parents are causing because you favor one child. They are gifted. They can be an engineer. They can be anything. But this other one can only be a farmer. They can be a cook. They can be a hairdresser.
Right.
We need to acknowledge that our children are going to be different. Acknowledge every gift in it and harness them.
Right.
Help your children to become the best of who they want to become. Don't reject anybody. And then between you as siblings, watch out. You can have 1,000 friends out there, but your sister, your brother, you will tell me they are ugly, they have hurt you. But blood is thicker than water.
Yes.
And I know some blood is contaminated in so many ways. But what responsibility have I played? What part have I played in those dirty relationships? I am holding each one of us responsible. What is your part in this? What part is it when my children are fighting and hating one another?
Right.
What part are you playing when you as a husband and wife are separating your children, favoring one, a mother favors this one and a father favors this one? The bloodline will be contaminated, and you're cursing your future generations. We talk about generational curses, they come in different formats. Please watch out, because they will torment you. And the worst thing as an adult, as a senior parent, is when you look at your children and they are not rhyming. It's a very, very sad situation. So let's work on that. Let's be careful. The seeds we are planting in our relationships, let's watch out. This idea of saying, I can't even remember when I spoke to my sister, and you think that is fun. A day is coming when you're going to need to talk to them. Where do you begin? So we all have a responsibility. We cannot hold one person responsible for this. All of us are in it.
Right.
And it pays or it hurts. And God is demanding it from us. We talk about the story of Cain and Abel. It's here with us. What are we doing about it?
Tupe namba yako daktari. I know people are asking, hey, how can we get Dr. Penny? Na by the way, mimi nilikuwa nakuona unaenda state from state institutions there in America. They call you for advice, counseling. Are you still moving around?
God is giving me beauty for my ashes. God is turning my pain to be a blessing to other people, and I am humbled. Yes, that I am an award-winning speaker.
Yes.
I go to conferences. Call me at your church, I will come. I go from state to state. And God willing, I'm going to go back to Kenya and do the same thing. I went there and I was all over the place. By God's grace alone, on TV, on radio. I do have a private practice, angel counseling services. I have a full office. I am board certified to do telehealth work.
Yes.
So if you call me from Germany and you pay 24 hours ahead of the session, we will talk.
Yes.
That is how I'm doing. That is what has happened after COVID, where we couldn't meet in the offices. People call me within a certain work frame. And we can talk.
Okay.
So that makes it easier. Some people, because of the shame and the stigma of counseling, some people don't want to come to an office. God has opened that forum where I can talk to you, whether you're in LA, whether you're in Washington, wherever you are, call me and we will talk.
Right.
Currently, I have clients from all over the states. It's open.
Okay.
But I want to say something. If you can pay for your hairdo, if you can pay for your car to be repaired at Walmart, please invest in counseling. People don't want to do that, and then every now and again somebody will call and think it was for free. It is payable. For me to do at a PhD level, Psych D, I think I qualify for somebody to honor what I do. It is only fair that please invest in counseling.
Exactly.
And let us stop laughing at people who are reaching out for counseling. It is your life. Stop worrying and fearing. What will people say when they know I'm counseling? Take care of yourself. Take care of your children. And children are needing it just as much.
You're right.
You can buy them a bicycle when they are depressed. You'll be left with that bicycle. You can buy them the most expensive clothes, but they are depressed. They'll pee on them. So make a choice and make the right choices. Choices. Priorities is what we need for our families. We have a lot of potential. We have a lot of gifts and talents in the community, both in the diaspora, both in Kenya. Our people are rising. It's very interesting to go back home and find people doing businesses, people who are executives everywhere. People who came from the slums like me. I don't think I said here today that I am a slum child. I am a Makadara girl, a Mukuru girl, but God. And I want to say again, if God can remove Penny from Makadara, take her to Alliance, through domestic violence, through depression, and bring me where I am to do what I am doing today, put me back to school at age 56, get my PhD at 62, He can do it for anybody.
Amen.
He does not discriminate.
This is encouraging. When I grow up, I want to be like you. Yani nikiwa miaka hiyo, ulisema uko how old?
75.
75.
Yes.
I have a long way to go. I have about 40 something
Amen.
years to go.
Amen.
And of course, by the time I hit that age, nitakuwa nikisema kuna mtu alinifunza hii maneno anaitwa Dr. Penny.
I speak it on you, Jeremy. I speak it to you that you can do it. And you are headed somewhere, because even for you to be doing what you're doing, Jeremy, you are still an icon. You are still a role model.
Amen.
You are mentoring a lot more people than you think by what you do.
Amen.
And may the Lord provide whatever you need to continue doing what you're doing. KDM is going places.
Amen. I thank God.
Yes.
Hey, now by the way, sasa if you are watching us, venye nimesikia unajua Dr. Penny is also a marriage therapist. So kama wewe uko pale na mnapigana vita, mnaona your marriage is like inaenda pale mwisho, it is the high time to call. Hebu tupe namba hiyo. 205
478
right
1464 205 478 1464. I'm board certified marriage and marriage therapist. I'm board certified alcohol and drug addiction. I'm board certified death and grief therapist.
Yes.
I'm board certified in a lot of things. I'm also a fellow of the American Institute of Stress.
I know. Kabisa. So,
yes, so
Dr. Penny ni mtu ambaye ako certified hiyo mambo yote, ni mtu ambaye amesomea hii mambo. So what you need to do, just talk to her. Namba yake actually imeshinda hapa tangu tuanze hii interview. Get in touch with her. If you are suffering with alcohol, drugs, as he has said, unataka mtu private, confidential, inaitwa confidential ama confidentiality.
Confidential. Yes. And then I'm also culturally relevant. I'll understand some of the things you tell somebody and they are trying to think ahead. There are some cultural things that we cannot explain to other people unless they've walked the walk, unless they've walked in your shoes. I think I have walked in a lot of shoes. From depression to domestic violence. I think I can empathize. And what led me to become who I am today is compassion for other people.
Yes.
I feel for people when they are hurting because I've been through the waters with them.
Right.
I have experienced the pain we are talking about. So I will not judge you.
Kabisa. So you're on the right platform. Just do that and definitely remember, kama venye tumesema, kama unaendaka kinyosi unalipa kunyolewa, unalipa kutengenezwa makucha. Well, this is a service, and of course you can also buy the book, read for yourself. But then inatoka pesa ngapi? How much is it?
$15.
$15. So you can buy the book, and
they're also available in Kenya.
Wale wako Kenya, you can still talk to Dr. Penny, atakuelezea mahali. Kama mko na shule, buy these books, give to the students, wacha wasome wajue what hii mambo ikiwapata, how are they going to deal with it. Mimi naitwa Jeremy Damaris, and of course I'm very proud of you, and of course I'll call you again and again and again if God allows, na tutapata hii maneno every time, ndio at least watu wetu wa diaspora, and of course wale wako Kenya. In fact wale mko Kenya ndio tunaita watu wa diaspora, sisi tuko home. Ndio mnaelewa hii maneno. Thank you very much, Dr. Penny. God bless you so much.
And I want to thank you, Jeremy, for doing this because you have started the conversation.
Yes.
My prayer has been demystify and unmask mental illness, and you are doing that. Jeremy has started the conversation. I pray and I'm urging you, continue these conversations. If we save one life, we will have done ourselves good. Save a life somewhere and be proud of that, because we are losing far too many. We are losing our children. Even talking about it is hard because I have lived my life. But I don't want to see young children, the 11-year-old, 17-year-old, somebody who is 18 gets onto their birthday and they think that is the day to take their life. Please, it's time we talked. It's time we became sensitive. Don't think it is in so-and-so's family. It is in your family, because like I said, when my children are failing, your children will end up failing. When Jeremy's children are failing, your children will end up failing. We need to go back to the village system. Let's take care of one another. And most of all, lean on God.
Thank you very much. You have a website as well?
It's in the making. Yeah, I'll highlight it when
haina shida. We're going to do it next time and the next time. So thank you very much. God bless you all the way from Birmingham, Alabama. Mimi naitwa Jeremy Damaris.